I'm watching it. Hello, good morning. Wherever you are, welcome. You are watching KUHS The Stream. I am Paul Lane, the host of today's show, Weekend Boost. I'm so glad and proud to be here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to KUHS The Stream. I talk about every other weekend. I talk about books. I interview authors. And I've been so excited about the guests that we've been having. And before I get started, I just want to just again thank you for joining us. I want to talk about some of the guests that we've had on the show. Lanny Cook has actually written 5 books. Just want to feature The Mystery of Zion, Israel, and the Last Days. This is one of his most recent books. He was a guest on the show. He was an educator from the Adams County School District. Very, very interesting man. Oh, I got to tell you, Dr. Alyssa Robin, she is just an amazing lady. She is very all around attuned to the world around her. She's an astrologer. She has so many gifts, and she has such a resume that The Pirate Wisdom is one of her books. It's a leadership book, and it's a very, very interesting read. Albert Quintana wrote No More Green Chili. And Albert is also a friend of the show. He used to host the show before I did. And Albert Quintana, you can find his book on QuintanaReads.com. Marilyn Saltzman was on our show a couple of shows back. Your Love is Blasting in My Heart, A Grandmother's Journey. A very, very interesting book. Marilyn Saltzman's book can be found on, I believe you go to Marilyn Saltzman. Gosh, I don't know, Marilyn, forgive me. But call the station and we'll be able to get that book to you if you're interested. This is a book that I got to share with you. It's just such an awesome, amazing book. 5-star Amazon rated book. Dennis Ty wrote this book, The Last Ride. Very interesting story of 5 motorcycle riders who were all over 60 years old, all have with terminal cancer. Talk a little bit more about that this a little later if I get the chance. And Virginia Sanchez was our last guest that we had on our show. She wrote this book, Pleas and Petition. Hispano Culture and the Legislative Conflict in Territorial Colorado. If you're from Colorado, I'm a 5th-generation Colorado native. I'm one of these guys that can say I did not cross the border crossed me. But if you want to find out about how that border crossed us, what kind of manipulation took place, what kind of politics were happening in the 1860s, you can find out a lot about Colorado. Why is it a square state? All kinds of useful, interesting information about Colorado's history in this book. I am the author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. This is a very, people have told me it's a gripping story. It's a story of my own life, my own experience with my wife. I was married 28 years. My wife had terminal cancer, brain cancer, and I took care of her until her last breath. Very, very useful information. If you have a loved one who is ill, if you have someone who is taking care of a loved one, this book is a very useful and practical guide on how to be a better caregiver and how to cope with some of life's very, very difficult times. And with that, I would like to start talking about today's show. I am going to be talking about something that's a very controversial subject, and for some it's troubling. Behind me you see Dr. Michael Newton, PhD. Dr. Michael Newton is a hypnotherapist, and he is a very fascinating guy. You can find his information on YouTube, Dr. Michael Newton, N-E-W-T-O-N. But before I get started talking about past lives in this book, I want to talk about my own experience. When I was a young man, I won't lie, I did order and read the Penthouse magazine. And so back in 1980, I purchased a copy of Penthouse. I since got rid of it. I reordered this special order. But December of 1980, there was an article, and it was called Past Lives Therapy by Craig Waters. Anyway, I got this article, and I read it. And this article really blew my mind. It really blew my mind because I had never thought about such a concept. I had never dreamed that there was a possibility. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I always knew that maybe it could be. And so Um, I read the article, and I remember I was about maybe 21 years old. I wasn't even 21 years old yet, and oh yes, I was. I just turned in that year. Anyway, um, there's an exercise in there on how to go into your own past life and do your own therapy experience, and I did it, and I did it all alone. And I don't know how long I was out, but I remember when I woke up, I was just in a puddle of sweat. I was, oh, my spirit was just so uneasy, and I was so terrified, and I don't know, and didn't know of what it was that I was afraid of. And I could only assume that in some past life that I existed. I could only assume that I had had a tragic death, or maybe a horrifying death even, and it really intrigued me. And so, as time went on, I made the decision that I wanted to find out more about this concept and possibility. I started hearing stories of. I heard a story of a little boy, and he would always tell his dad stories that his dad thought were amazing. He would say, "Yeah, I flew an airplane," and his dad would laugh, And as the kid grew older, one day he named off the model of this airplane, and the father was pretty amazed. And he did some research and found out that yes, indeed, there was an aircraft with this nomenclature or with this name. And so the kid would say things like, "Oh yeah, when this plane took off, it had blowouts," or he'd say, "Yeah, the wobble stick on that was really hard to handle," or he would tell things about this plane that no one else could know. And as the kid continued to talk about his story, he gave more and more details, and details that only could have been known by someone else that had lived in another life. And as the boy grew and the father and the mother did more and more research, they found out that there was indeed an aircraft carrier that had this aircraft in it. They found a photograph of this aircraft and all of the crew members, and the little boy came into the picture and saw it, and he said, "That's me, that's me." And I don't know what your faith background, beliefs, religion, whatever they are. All of that went out the window for me, because how could this child know this? I mean, it just was just a freak thing. So I was more intrigued and I was more interested in the topic. And so years went by, and I happened to be in a restaurant one day, and I picked up a Colorado Free University catalog you can pick up around town. Maybe now after the COVID, maybe not so much. But anyway, I picked up this magazine, and I found an article, or I found a class on past lives therapy, hypnotherapy, and I signed up. I went through the class, and there were approximately 8 people in the class, and the therapist hypnotized us all in the morning. And it was, to say the least, a very enlightening experience for me. And as we finished the exercise, it was coming up on lunchtime, and each one of the participants, she brought us out of the hypnosis, and she took each one of the, the participants, and she asked them about their experience. And each one of us told them, just a little different experience that we had, and things that we saw, and things that we felt, and I mean, things we smelled, and I mean, it was very, very real. And I was the last one to go. And I remember I said I was on it was a moonlit night, and I was in the ocean, but it wasn't more, it was more of a cove in, near on the shore. And I was wearing all black, and I came out of like a little house on a boat, and I came up maybe a step, and as I stepped up, I could see water reflecting on the boat from the moon. I remember looking down at it, and then I felt a tremendous pain in the back of my neck, and someone had come behind me and stabbed me in the back of my neck and killed me. And I remember falling to the floor. Anyway, when I was through this experience and I shared it with the group, the instructor said, "I want to come back this afternoon, and Paul, I want to do a single hypnosis with you this afternoon." And boy, it was a pretty surprising, news. So I went to lunch, pretty excited. I remember coming back, and the whole class gathered around, and she hypnotized me again. And the thing was that this time when I went into the hypnosis, I was in a different life. it was more modern. It was more, I don't know, maybe in the 1800s, and I guess it was in the desert somewhere in the southwest United States or in the United States. And I remember feeling a tremendous pain at the bottom of my foot, and I looked down, and there was a hole in my shoe, and I had stepped on a scorpion, and that was the end of me. And as I was in that experience, she tried to get me to talk about my name or what year I was or what state I was, but I could not grasp any of it. And a lot of times I think you have to go deeper into the hypnosis to get more of a grasp of where you are. I don't know. Anyway, so all this experience happened to me, and through this all, I'm going through all these kind of spiritual experiences myself with, with Christianity and with my own personal growth, and so for me it was a real interesting time. By the way, folks, if you would like to call in today, if you would like to do a live call in, I am prepared for that. You can call 720-233-6262, 720-233-6262, and come on the show. If you have any comments, if you've got an experience that you'd like to share. I'm not an authority on the subject. I've had some experiences, but I've done some research, and if you'd like to call in, 720-233-6262. And with that, I'm going to introduce the book Journey of Souls, Dr. Michael Newton. I've talked about this on Facebook over the years quite a bit. I've shared about my opinions of it, and I've always wanted to talk about this. Case studies of life between lives. When I read that subtitle, I mean, that blew my mind. A case study of lives between lives. What about death? Where does that fit in? And so, I got this book, and first I listened to it on audio, and it was really a fascinating book. It starts out, and see through the eyes of the immortal soul. Why are you here on earth? Where will you go after death? What will happen to you when you get there? Many books have been written about past lives, but there has been little about the ongoing existence of our soul as we wait rebirth. Until this startling and provocative book. So I read that, and it was very, very interesting. And as I started, looking through it, I got into the introduction, and I came upon this line, and it was really, really fascinating. This book is an intimate journal about the spirit world. Now, just thinking about that sentence and dissecting it really, really blew my mind, because intimate journal about the spirit world is just like I got a special invitation to go to someplace that humans just don't normally go. It provides a series of actual case histories which reveal in explicit detail what happens to us when life on earth is over. What happens to us? It's so funny about Western culture and our fear and our perspective, our views on death, and we have such tremendous fear of it that we would do anything not to die. And when you look at other cultures, even some of the United States, like in New Orleans, they embrace it. They, when someone dies, they really look at it as completely different than most people in the Western cultures do. And I've had quite a bit of experiences with death in my life. When my wife was ill, she was in the hospice center for 7 months at Porter Hospice. And it was really fascinating. When someone would die, my CD player that I had in the room would always start skipping, and it had a particular pattern that it would do, and it was always the same. It was almost always the same. After I heard that particular pattern on my CD player, the nurse would come by, shut the door to the room, and I really hadn't thought much about it until one day I opened the door and I saw a body being taken. And it happened so frequently, and it happened so accurately that I could call a nurse in, or a nurse would come in and I would say, someone just passed away. And I mean, if you can imagine how eerie that must have been for them, of course they probably lived through it every day. But anyway, I really felt that after people die, there's an energy that's left behind. There's some kind of a entity, or there's some kind of something special that is left behind, or it moves to a different place. And I felt like I was privileged to be a part of that. And so after, average of 2 people a day dying in the hospice center in 7 months, you can imagine that I saw a lot of people pass in that time. And so after my wife's passing, I really didn't fear death at all. I didn't have any thought about, oh, I'm afraid of what happens, or what happened wasn't really concerning me. But the reality of not dying after you die became very, very real to me. And so, again, if you're just joining us, folks, you are watching KUHS The Stream. You're watching the Weekend Boost. I am Paul Lane, and I'm the author of the Caregiver's Handbook. Anyway, I was talking about Michael Newton, Dr. Michael Newton, and his Journey of Souls book, Case Studies Between Lives. And as I read through this, and I started thinking about this intimate journal of lives, a life between lives, and I started reading through this book, it became really, really fascinating to me. Folks, again, if you'd like to call into the show, the number here you can reach me at is 720-233-6262, and I will be glad to answer your call. So, back to the book. After I got past the introduction, there were 29 case studies that were featured in this book. And there was also a second book that's read. But I'm just going to read some of this book to you, and I just want to get your feedback from it. I want to just kind of share with you this perspective of this hypnotherapist and the subjects. So, with that, I'm going to read. Death and Departure. Case 1. S. Oh my God, I'm not really dead, am I? I mean, my body is dead. I can see it below me, but I'm floating. I can look down. I can see my body laying flat on a hospital bed. Everyone around me thinks I'm dead, but I'm not. I want to shout, hey, I'm not really dead. This is so incredible. The nurses are pulling a sheet over my head. People are now crying. I'm supposed to be dead, but I'm still alive. It's strange because my body is absolutely dead while I'm moving around from above. I'm alive! These are the words spoken by a man deep in hypnosis, reliving a death experience. His words came in short, excited bursts and are full of awe as he sees and feels what it's like to be a spirit, newly separated from his physical body. This man is my client, and I have just assisted him in recreating a past life death scene while he lies back in a comfortable recliner chair. A little earlier, following my instructions during his trance induction, this subject was age regressed in a return to childhood memories. His subconscious perceptions gradually coalesced as we worked together to reach his mother's womb. They say that all of your days are imprinted in your mind. And can you imagine having the ability to go back to when you were 7 years old, or even to the day you were born, and to have vivid recollections of every detail that happened in that room? Our minds are like computers, and they're wired to do that. And so this is very interesting to me. Thoughts? I then prepared for him to jump back into the mists of time by the visual use of protective shielding. When we completed this important step of mental conditioning, I moved my subject through an imaginary time tunnel to his last life on Earth. It was a short life because he had died suddenly from influenza, the epidemic of 1918. As the initial shock of seeing him die and feeling his soul floating out of his body begins to wear off a little, my client adjusts more readily to the visual images in his mind. Since a small part of the conscious critical portion of his mind is still functioning, he realizes he is recreating a former experience. It takes a bit longer than usual since this subject is a younger soul, but not so used to the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth as many other of my clients are. Within a few moments he settles back in and begins to respond with greater confidence to my questions. I quickly raise the subject's subconscious hypnotic level to a superconscious state. Now he is ready to talk to me about the spirit world, and I ask, what's happening to him? Listen to this. Yes. Well, I'm rising up higher, still floating, looking back at my body. It's like watching a movie, only I'm in it. The doctor is comforting my wife and my daughter. My wife is sobbing. Subject wiggles with discomfort in his chair. I'm trying to reach into her mind to tell her it's all right with me. She's so overcome by grief. I'm not getting through. I want her to know my suffering is gone. I'm free of my body. I don't need it anymore. That I will wait for her. I want her to know that. But she is not listening to me. Oh, I'm moving away now. And so as he went through this experience, he was really seeing this from an outside or a third party perspective, which I really thought was fascinating. I want to skip down a little bit more. I'm going to just read a little bit more. Guys, again, number here, 720-233-6262. 720-233-6262. Again, you're watching the Weekend Boost on KUHS The Stream. Case 2. The scene in Case 2 opens up on the American Southern Plains right after an arrow has struck Sally in her neck at close range. I'm always careful with death scenes involving violent trauma in past lives because the subconscious mind often still retains these experiences. The subject in this case came to me because of a lifetime of throat discomfort. Release therapy and deprogramming is usually required in these cases. In all past life recall, I used the time around death for quiet review and place the subject in observer status. So often, pain and emotion. I'm sorry, forgive me. Place the subject in observer status to soften pain and emotion. Case 2. Dr. N. Are you in great pain from the arrow? Yes. Yes. The point is toward my throat. I'm dying. Subject begins to whisper while holding his hand at the throat. Choking. Blood pouring down. Will, husband, is holding me. The pain. Terrible. I'm getting out now. It's over anyway. Note. Souls often leave their human hosts moments before the actual death, when their bodies are in great pain. Who can blame them? Nevertheless, they do stay close by the dying body. After calming techniques, I raise this subject from the subconscious to the superconscious level for the transition of spiritual memories. Dr. M. All right, Sally. You have accepted being killed by these Indians. Will you please describe to me the exact sensation you feel at the time of death? S. Like a force. Some kind of pushing me up out of my body. Dr. N. Pushing you? Out? Where? S. I'm being ejected out the top of my head. Dr. N. And what was pushed out? S. Well, me. Dr. N. Describe what me means. What does the thing that is you look like going out of the head of your body? S. Like the pointing of light. Radiating. Dr. N. How do you radiate light? S. From my energy. I look sort of transparent. White. My soul. Dr. N. And does this energy light stay the same after leaving your body? S. Pause. I seem to grow a little as I move around. Dr. N. If your light expands, then what do you look like now? S. A wispy, strange, hanging. Dr. N. Now what does the process of moving out of your body actually feel like to you? That's definitely not a call for the show. And what does the process of moving out of your body actually feel like to you? Well, yes. Well, it's as if I've shed my skin, peeling a banana. I just lose my body in one swoosh. Dr. N. Is the feeling unpleasant? Yes. Oh no. It's wonderful to feel so free, with no more pain, but I am disoriented. I didn't expect to die. Sadness creeping into my client's voice, and I want him to stay focused on his soul for a minute more, rather than what is taking place on the ground with his body. Dr. N. I understand, Sally. You're feeling a little displacement at the moment as a soul. This is normal in your situation for what you have just gone through. Listen and respond to my question. You said you were floating. Are you able to move around freely right after death? Yes. It's strange. It's as if I'm suspended in air. That isn't air at all. There are no limits, no gravity, and weightless. Dr. N, you mean it's sort of like being in a vacuum for you? Dr. N, yeah, S, yes. Nothing around me is a solid mass. There are no obstacles to bump into. I'm drifting. Dr. N, can you control your movements? Where are you going? S, yes, I can do some of that, but there is a turning into a bright whiteness. It's so bright! Dr. N, is the intensity of whiteness the same everywhere? S, brighter away from me. It's a little darker, white, gray in the direction of my body. Starts to cry. Oh, my poor baby, I'm not ready to leave yet. Subject pulls back his chair as if he's resisting something. Dr. N, it's all right, Sally. I'm with you. I want you to relax and tell me if the force that took you out of your head at the moment of death is still pulling you away, and if you can stop it. S. Pause. When I was free of my body, the pulling lessened. Now I feel a nudge, drawing me away from my body. I don't want to go there, but something wants me to go soon. Dr. N, I understand, Sally, but I suspect you are learning you have some element of control. How do you describe this thing that is pulling you? S. Kind of magnetic force, but I want to stay a little longer. Dr. N, can your soul resist this pulling sensation for as long as you want? S. There's a long pause while the subject appears to be carrying on an internal debate within himself in his former life as Sally. Yes, I can, if I really want to stay. Subject starts to cry. Oh, it's awful what those savages did to my body. There is blood all over my pretty blue dress. My husband Will is trying to hold me and still fight with our friends against the Kiowa. Note. I reinforce the imagery of a protective shield around this subject, which is so important as a foundation to calming procedures. Sally's soul is still hovering over her body. I move the scene forward in time to when the Indians are driven off by the wagon train rifles. Dr. N. Sally, what is your husband doing right after the attack? S. Oh, good, he isn't hurt. But, with sadness, he's holding my body, crying over me. There is nothing he can do for me. But he doesn't seem to realize that yet. I'm cold, but his hands are around my face, kissing me. And what are you doing at this moment? I'm over Will's head. I'm trying to console him. I want him to feel my love. It's not really common. I want him to know he has not lost me forever. And I see it again. Are your messages getting through? There's so much grief, but he fills my essence. I know it. Our friends are around him and they separate us finally. They want to reform the wagons and get started again. Dr. N. And what is going on with your soul now? S. I'm still resting. I'm still resisting the pulling sensation. I want to stay. Dr. N. Why is that? S. Well, I know I'm dead, but I don't really want to leave Will yet, and I want to watch them bury me. S. Do you see or feel any other spiritual entities around you at this moment? S. Pause. They are near. Soon I will see them. I feel their love as I want Will to feel mine. They are waiting until I'm ready. Dr. A. As time passes, are you able to comfort Will? S. I'm trying to reach inside his mind. Dr. A. Are you successful? S. Pause. I think a little. It fills me. He realizes, no, Dr. M. All right, Sally. Now we're going to move forward in relative time again. Do you see your wagon trains placing your wagon train friends placing your body in some kind of grave? Yes. Voice more confident. Yes. They have buried me. It's time for me to go. They are coming for me now. I'm moving into a brighter life. So it's so interesting that sometimes when we pass away, we want to cling to this world as an entity, although we don't have a physical presence or existence. So what are we, what is that? Is that electrical energy? Is it magnetic? Is it static? Is it a frequency? I mean, I'm so fascinated by this. I just want to know more. I always say I'm going to embrace death. I mean, when the time comes, don't get me wrong. If I was hanging off of a cliff, I'd be hanging on for dear life. But I know that when that time comes, everything's going to be okay. You know, as my wife's caregiver, one of the hardest things for me was that at that time, just the thought of her leaving this world, and I knew that she was afraid of the death. I knew that it was something that bothered her, and I don't know if it frightened her, troubled her, but it concerned her. And as I've gone through time, and I look back on her life, and I look back on her life, I really believe that she was okay. My sister-in-law Bertha died last month. Her sister, her favorite sister, and their mom died a couple of months before that, my mother-in-law. And I gotta tell you, man, I just can imagine that they all three were embracing the day that the last one entered. I just believe in my heart that they are all at peace. I believe that they are not in pain anymore. I believe that none of them is suffering, and I believe that they all found that brighter light. And maybe you disagree. Maybe your spiritual beliefs will not allow you to even conceive of the possibility of this. But did you know that at one time it was in the Bible that reincarnation was real? Back in the day, there were Sadducees and Pharisees, and the Sadducees believed in reincarnation, whereas the Pharisees did not. Whatever you believe, we cannot deny that these people had some experiences. I'm gonna just take the liberty of just going and reading a little bit more. By the way, again, I just want to introduce the station, KUHS The Stream. You are watching KUHS International, The Stream. I am Paul Lane. You're watching The Weekend Boost. I am the author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. Very, very interesting book. People have told me it's a very, very powerful book. People have told me that they couldn't put it down. People have told me that they picked up my book and sat and read the whole book in one night. And it's not just a few pages. It's a pretty good book. But take a look at this book. When my wife left this world, there was wonder. At the time of her death, it was a beautiful experience, I got to tell you. When she passed away, my two daughters and me were with her, and it was just an amazing experience because we have two really, really significant days in our life, and more significant than all the others. And that's the day we're born and the day we die. And to be there when someone's born is pretty exciting. To be there when someone dies, I think it's the highest honor that we can achieve. I think that it's very noble. I think it's very awesome. Not everybody has a beautiful death, but she did. She was very, very blessed and very, very at peace. I wrote a little subsection that was called The Most Beautiful Death. And take the liberty of reading a little bit. This is chapter 32, The Most Beautiful Death. Between the months of February and April of 2008, Rita's appetite had diminished to almost nothing, and she had become frighteningly thin. Her thighs had shriveled to the point where they were almost as thin as her ankles, and her face and arms were so lean she literally looked like a Holocaust prisoner of war. Almost every day I would apply lotion from the top of her legs down to the soles of her feet. Then I would cover her arms and hands with lotion. As I I was proud of myself because of the fact that in all of the time she was in hospice, she never developed a single bed sore. Sometimes I would dress her in pajamas and put her in a wheelchair. I would wheel her all around the hospice center, although she couldn't tell me whether she liked it or not. She seemed to perk up when I took her to the main gathering area. From there, she could look out the large, almost floor-to-ceiling windows and see the trees and the birds. It was heartbreaking to know that her life had dwindled down to this. Some days when I went to her room, I could see a look of confusion on her face, and I wasn't sure she knew who I was. So every morning I would greet her, and then point to the large poster board with all of our family photos on it. I would show her pictures of herself with our daughters and me, and tell her that I was the guy in the pictures. Sometimes she smiled when I showed her the picture of us kissing. In late March, one of the hospice nurses told me that Rita would no longer eat when the nurses tried to feed her, and that she only ate when I fed her. By that time I was sleeping at home almost every night. So each morning before I went to the hospice center, I would make a salad that was big enough to feed us both. Each day I was amazed at how much Rita would eat. She could consume an entire container of salad every time, and I figured that as long as she kept eating it, I'd keep feeding it too. Then, in the second week of April, she began to aspirate or choke on her saliva when she swallowed. Once, when one of her sisters was visiting, Rita began to choke. Though she was extremely weak, she coughed and gasped so violently her sister was visibly shaken. I sat next to Rita and held her close to me and rocked her back and forth. I patted her on her back gently as she was laying her down. I had seen so many times before that it was hardly unusual to me. Then, on April 20th, the charge nurse told me that because Rita had been aspirating, I could no longer take the silence. No longer was, or nor was I to feed her anymore. In the last week of April, Rita's countenance clearly changed, and she became more and more absent, and her weight dropped so much that I couldn't understand how she could sustain life. By April 29th, it had been 3 days since Rita had eaten the king. She looked so frail, it was as if she would literally break if she were to bump herself. In my heart, I knew she was in her last week. I called her family to let them know of her condition. That week, she received visits from two of her sisters, her husband and sister-in-law, two nieces, and of course my daughters-in-law. I was very blessed to see her family coming to see her, and my heart was set at ease. On May 1st, Rita became so weak I was positive she was in her last 24 hours. Her sister Delphina and her husband had spent the prior day and night with us at the hospice center, but they had returned to Pueblo. Her brother Albert and his wife Mary arrived less than 3 hours after Delphina left. Even though Rita was totally unresponsive, I was comforted to have someone else there with me through those days, especially Rita's family. I called Amanda and Stacy at work around 3 and told them I believed that their mom was getting close. I told them that they should get to the hospice center as soon as they could. Stacy got there right after she got off work. Amanda and Josh got there a short time later. The mood in the room was peaceful, considering that what was happening. Everyone took turns sitting close to Rita and holding her hands. We listened to quiet music through the day and into the evening. Our cousins Ben and Joanne Madrid, who had held the fundraiser for us, sent several boxes of food from their restaurant, so there was plenty of food and sodas for everyone. Around 10 o'clock, Rita began to hyperventilate. It was extremely difficult to watch as she gasped over and over for air. I called the nurse in and she gave Rita something to help calm her down. Within an hour, her breathing became more relaxed. The nurse told us that we needed to remove Rita's fingernail polish so that we could see her nail beds. From the time Rita had first gone into the hospice, Stacy had always done her mother's nails, so there was never a second thought as to who should do it. She meticulously wiped her mom's nails clean on one hand. Since Rita's cousin Lou had been such a great supporter through it all, I called her around 11. She was at work but said she would get there as soon as she could. Then I called Rita's sister Bertha. She was always Rita's favorite sibling, and I promised her that I would call her if and when Rita was ready to pass. At 2 that morning, I called our pastor Scott to tell him Rita would be gone by morning. I told him he didn't need to come, but he was there within an hour. I told him by then there were 10 of us in the private room gathered around Rita's bed. The feeling in the room was one of complete unity and love. Everyone was there for the same reason, to be there for Rita. I played her favorite music in the yard, spoke softly as we comforted one another. The nurse would come in every once in a while to make sure we were all right. We were 10 souls, lending prayer and love to one as she left this world. I had never thought about it or what it would be like when the time came, but the spirit in the room was so sweet. It was as if I was in a dream. Rita's breathing had slowed down to an almost normal pace, and she looked at peace. Sometime around 4:30 that morning, Lou suggested I tell Rita who was in the room. I scooted closer to her, and I quietly told her that there were a lot of people there with her. I named everyone and told her that it was all right to let go whenever she was ready. Then Lou asked me if I would like for everyone to leave us alone with Rita for a while. Her words were not only welcome, they were very friendly. I agreed. Everyone but Amanda, Stacy, and I filtered out of the room, leaving us alone with Rita. It was around 4:35 a.m. when the last person left. Rita was so tiny, she only took up a small area in the bed. Amanda and Stacy had taken turns lying beside her throughout the night. Now I took my place next to her while Stacy cuddled at her feet and Amanda sat under the corner. I had spent so many nights in it. It was scooted close enough to the bed that Amanda could reach out and lay a hand on her brother, whose breathing now had become even less labored. It was as if she was completely aware of what I was saying. There was an amazing clarity in the room. It was almost as if the seconds had been stretched out for us to grasp what was happening. I asked Stacy to play the song Poetry Man by Phoebe Snow. I looked at the clock and saw that it was 4:44 a.m. I quietly explained to Rita that everyone had left the room and that only Amanda, Stacy, and I were in the room with her. I crawled up close to her and I told her that everything was going to be all right. Then I told Stacy to tell her mom she was going to be all right. She moved to the top of the bed and hugged Rita. Mom, she said, it's Stacy. I want you to know that I love you. I'm going to be all right. Then she kissed her mother's cheek. Next, Amanda hugged her mom and said, Mom, it's Amanda. I want you to know that I love you, and I'm going to be all right too. Then she kissed Rita's cheek. Finally, it was my turn. I held Rita for what seemed like a long time. I said, Rita, I want you to know you have been a wonderful mother, and you have been the best friend I have ever had. I could not have asked for a better life. I love you, honey, and I promise I'm going to be all right too. And then I kissed her and I hugged her once again. Up to that point, no one had cried a tear. But as I spoke, I could feel the emotions building up in my eyes. The second I finished kissing her, Rita inhaled deeply and let it out. As she exhaled, her head slowly leaned forward. She opened her eyes and looked up into Stacy's eyes. She did not inhale again. It was all so surreal, yet so peaceful. We all sat there in disbelief. There was an incredible feeling of peace and calm in the room as we laid our heads on Rita's chest. No one moved. Somehow we knew the time was upon us. As if on cue, we all looked at each other. Not a word. Yet it was as if we were asking, is this it? For a moment, at least for me, every sad feeling was replaced with a mixture of relief and joy. I sent one of the girls to get the nurse, and the other went to gather all those who had left the room just minutes before. The nurse came in and asked when Rita had taken her last breath. I told her it was 4:44 a.m. She had a notebook which she wrote Rita's time officially passing as 4:49. Just then, everyone started to come back into the room. I believe that when my wife was in those last moments,
but she was really at peace. I really believe that she went to a place to prepare for her next re-entry to this earth. And I believe after 12 years that she has returned. As a male, as a female, I don't know. In America, I don't know. Let me see if this is the text regarding the show. Oh, Quigley's calling. So, anyway, we've been talking about Michael Newton and the journey of souls. And as you read through this book, I hope I've piqued your interest to some degree. I hope that I've opened your mind. I hope that you've considered the possibility that, hey, maybe there is something else in this world. Maybe there is something else after death. I'm going to read you one more case study. I just feel inclined to. We've got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to fast forward here because these case studies get more and more intriguing as you get along. Let me see here. I'm going to go to case 4. Most of my subjects report that as they emerge from the mouth of the tunnel, things are still unclear for a while. I think this is due to the density of the nearest astral plane surrounding Earth, called the Kamaloka, by the Theosophists. Maybe I pronounced that wrong, but I'm doing my best. The next case describes this area from a perspective of a more analytical planet. The soul of this individual demonstrates considerable observational insight into form, colors, and vibrational levels. Normally, such graphic physical descriptions of my subjects occur deeper into the spirit world after they get used to their surroundings. Case 4. Dr. N. As you move further away from the tunnel, describe what you see around you in as much detail as possible. S. Things are layered. Dr. N. Layered in what way? S. Sort of like a cake. Dr. N. Using the cake as a model, explain what you mean. S. I mean, some cakes have small tops and are wide at the bottom. It's not like that when I get through the tunnel. I see layers, levels of light. They appear to me to be translucent, indented. Dr. N. Do you see the spirit world here as made up of a solid structure? S. That's what I'm trying to explain. It's not solid, although you think so at first. It's layered. The levels of light are all woven together in stratified threads. I don't want to make it sound like they're not symmetrical. They are. But I see variations in thickness, color, refraction in the layers. They also shift back and forth. I always notice this as I travel away from Earth. Why do you think this is so? S. I don't know. I didn't design it. Dr. N. From your description, I picture the spirit world as a huge tier with layers of shades, sections from top to bottom. Yes, the sections are rounded. They curve away from me as I float through them. Dr. N. From your position of observation, can you tell me about the different colors of the layers? S. I didn't say the layers had any major tones. They are all variations of white. It is lighter, brighter where I'm going than where I have been. Around me now is a hazy whiteness which was much brighter than in the tunnel. Dr. N. As you float through these spiritual layers, is your soul moving up or down? And S. Neither. I'm moving across. Dr. N. Well then, do you see the spirit world at this moment? In linear dimensions of lines and angles as you move across? S. Pause. For me, it is mostly sweeping, non-material energy, which is broken into layers by light and dark color variations. I think something is pulling me into my proper level of travel and trying to relax me too. Dr. N. In what way? S. I'm hearing sounds. Dr. N. What sounds? S. An echo of music. Music tingling. Wind chimes. Vibrating with my movements. So relaxing. Dr. N. Other people have defined these sounds as vibrational in nature, similar to writing on the resonance from the twang of a tuning fork. Do you agree or disagree with this description? Yes, nodding assent. Yes, that's what it is. And I have memory of that scent and taste too. Does this mean your physical senses stay with us after death? Yes. Yes, the memory of them. The waves of musical notes here are so beautiful. Bells, streams, such tranquility. Can you imagine? I just have to say that this is such a it's a mind blower. It really is. It's a head scratcher. What else can I call it? Life has many mysteries, and the biggest one of them is death. But I got to tell you, if you have a chance, this book is available on Audible, and it's very, very easy to listen to. It's very entertaining. It's very informative. Dr. Michael Newton, PhD, Journey of Souls. When we leave this world, we're going to go to a different place. We're going to go to an astral plane, I guess, as he calls it. That is not this one. And physical distancing, I don't know. It could be right here. You know, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And, you know, who knows? Who knows if it's not right here in this room? If it's not even within our own selves. You know, when a human body dies, it loses so many grams. And a lot of people believe that that is the weight of the soul. I can't remember how many grams it is, but 21 grams, I believe. The body loses 21 grams of weight. And the physical soul, you can have a physical weight. Mystery after mystery just surrounds us and grasps me and makes me just wonder about life and death. I appreciate you being with us today. Before I go, I want to talk again about Dennis Ty's book. I'm sorry, I loved this book. I loved reading it. Can you imagine 5 guys over 60 years old, all terminally ill? Every one of them has less than 6 months to live. As I close, I want to go out with this book again, The Last Ride, Dennis Ty. I don't want to talk too much about the whole book, but as they go through Mexico, they have some real wild experiences, and I won't kid you, at least one of the 5 dies on the trip of his cancer. And when you open this book and you read the experience of them losing their friend Bob on the beach to pancreatic cancer, and the peaceful feeling of the serene surrounding him, what a beautiful death he had. And that book really it's a heartwarming book. It's a very gripping book. It's very emotional. It's very full of things to make you cry, things to make you laugh, things to make you think. And gosh, I couldn't believe it was a fiction book. I think Dennis just did a good job with that. In the weeks to come, we're going to be having some very interesting guests. We're going to be having a guest that wrote a book on leadership, and we're having a guest that wrote a book on emotional eating, which at this time is probably very relevant. And so I'm looking forward to some really exciting upcoming guests. Again, you've been watching KUHS, the stream. This is the Weekend Boost. I am Paul Lane, author of the Caregiver's Handbook, the Self-Help Love Story. Again, thank you for joining us today. I know we didn't have a guest. I hope that the topic was interesting to you. I hope that it made you think. I hope that you do your own research and that you don't do your own searching, because there's a lot to this life, and there's more to life than life. Live your life. Enjoy your life. Do the best you can. I want to do a quote by Paul J. Meyer. He said something That was very profound. And I'm going to say it, and you may have to hear it again. I'm going to say it twice. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. I'm going to say that again. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. I challenge you to pick up a book this week. Read a book about life. Read a book about cooking. Read a book about past lives. Read a book about the last ride. Read a book about the caregiver's handbook. Pick up a book this week. I gotta tell you, um, as I'm going into my golden years, and I'm already in my golden years, but I find that the meaningful life is not a life that you had a career where you made so much money and you bought so many things and drove so much of cars, so many cars. A meaningful life is when you're driving down the road and you stop to take pictures of the cactus. A meaningful life is when you decide to take a ride to McDonald's and sit in the parking lot and eat the hot French fries. A meaningful life is when you're sitting next to your loved one and hold their hand and kiss it. A meaningful life is a life well lived. You've been watching the Weekend Boost on KUHS, the stream. I am Paul Lane. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week.